let me tell you all about something that rocked my world. Something I never anticipated. We all know that life has a funny way of kicking you in the teeth just when you think you've got it all figured out. This is my story. You see, I've been happily married for the last 12 years. We were the type of couple who turned heads when we walked into a room. Fit, in love, two halves of a complete entity. We worked out at the same gym, shared meals, and every single secret, or so I thought. But last week, the narrative of my life changed forever. My buddy Mike from the gym called me out of the blue. He's a stand-up guy, as loyal as they come, and if he had something to tell me, it was worth listening to. He told me to watch my back. I asked him why, and he spoke hesitantly of an undercurrent that he'd noticed at the gym. Something between my wife, Claire, and this other guy, Rick, who had a reputation for being a player. I laughed it off initially. No way, not my Claire, we're a team, I thought. But then Mike mentioned their peculiar interactions on Thursdays. You see, my job requires me to work late on Thursdays, a sacrifice for the sake of our comfortable life. Claire would go to the gym alone, taking advantage of the time to continue her fitness routine. Turns out Rick knew this too. Driven by a sense of dread, I went through Claire's phone, which was something I'd never done before. I found a message thread on an obscure messaging app, not her primary one. The mere existence of this other messaging app sent alarm bells ringing in my head. As I read through the exchange, each message felt like a punch to the gut. I discovered they had planned a rendezvous for the upcoming Thursday, intending to escape the gym early, at different times, and meet at a hotel a few blocks away. Rick would get there first and set up, and Claire would arrive 20 minutes later. It felt like I was reading the script of some cheap melodrama. Except this was real. This was my life. The pit of my stomach churned, a cocktail of anger, betrayal, and heartache. Yet, despite the raging storm within me, I found an odd sense of calm, a chilling determination settling around me like an icy shroud. You see, folks, I'm not one to sit back and play the victim. No, I'm a man of action. Stoic, some might say, but I am also the type who believes in settling scores. As I sit here typing this out, the room is dark around me. It's late, and Claire is asleep in our bed, oblivious to the storm that's about to hit her. On the table beside me is her phone, the damning evidence shining brightly in the dark. I will not let this pass. I will not sit idly by while my marriage is torn asunder. I intend to blow up this little game, but how I'm going to do it, I'm not sure yet. What I do know is that I will not allow myself to be made a fool. It's a war of sorts, a battle of wits, and I plan to strike where it hurts most. My vengeance will be cold, calculated, and absolutely just. But don't mistake my resolve for cruelty. It is merely the product of deep-seated betrayal and a sense of injustice. I will be back. I will tell you what happens. But for now, I must plan. I must strategize, and I must ensure that every piece falls perfectly into place. You see, the game's only over when the last move is played, and trust me, I plan to have the last move. This may be my darkest hour, but it is also my time to rise, to reclaim my dignity and self-respect, to ensure that the game being played ends with my victory. The stage is set, the dice is loaded, and my wife, she will learn that Thursday, this Thursday, is a day they will never forget. Till then, I remain a man wronged, a husband betrayed, but by no means defeated. Stay tuned. Here is his first update. Thank you for your patience, everyone. If you remember my last update, I had promised to reveal how my Thursday evening unfolded. The evening where I stopped being a spectator in my own life and took charge. As promised, here's how it went down. First, I arranged with a handful of colleagues at work whom I trust implicitly to handle my workload. That allowed me to leave the office early, a deviation from my usual routine, to meet my unexpected appointment. A clandestine meeting on a Thursday evening that would irrevocably change the dynamics of my marriage, and another man's too. You see, after a bit of discreet investigation, I discovered something shocking. Rick, the interloper in my wedded life, was not as single as he liked to portray. He had a wife as oblivious to her husband's infidelities as I had been to Claire's deceit. The chessboard was set, and I was ready to make my move. I dialed a number, a simple action that held profound implications. Rick's wife picked up the phone, her voice filled with unsuspecting cheer. We conversed, but I'll let the suspense of our discussion linger a while longer. Fast forward to that fateful Thursday night. Thanks to my gym buddy Mike, I knew when Rick left the gym for the rendezvous. My heart pounded like a war drum as I parked my car across the street from the designated hotel, watching and waiting. After about 5 minutes of Rick entering the hotel, another car pulled up. Rick's wife, let's call her Sarah, was here. We parked on the back side, away from prying eyes. We sat in the breakfast area adjacent to the lobby. It was a strange calm before the storm, like the unnerving quietude before a tempest. My mind was filled with 1,000 thoughts, yet I felt an eerie sense of calm. The stakes were high, but so was my resolve. Then Claire walked in. As she passed the breakfast area, I called out, "Hey, hun!" The shock on her face was akin to a deer caught in the headlights. Her eyes widened, her lips parted in a silent gasp, and she paled considerably. The shock of seeing me in a place she least expected me was evident. "Come in here and let's talk a minute." She hesitated, then walked in slowly. She looked at Sarah and then back at me. I could tell for a brief moment she thought that maybe I was also at this hotel with another woman. She almost looked relieved until I said, "I'd like you to meet Sarah, Rick's wife." Her countenance dropped. She started apologizing, saying, "Oh my God, I had no idea." But I cut her off with a gesture of my hand. Sarah just scowled at her. "What room is he in?" My voice cut through the tense air like a knife. Claire's lips quivered, but she remained silent. Sarah, now on the verge of a breakdown, echoed my question. "Which room?" I asked again, this time my voice as cold as the Arctic wind. "Claire, I won't ask again." After what felt like an eternity, she muttered, "Room 413. Before leaving, I demanded Claire's phone. She resisted initially, but the fierce look in my eyes left no room for defiance. She handed it over reluctantly. To my surprise, she had changed her passcode. One glance at Claire and she mumbled the code, 1411. I opened her phone, scrolled to the app they used to communicate, and then sent Rick a message stating, "I'd be right up." Then I marched towards room 413. The silence in the hallway was almost deafening as I stood in front of the door, my heart pounding in my chest. With a deep breath, I knocked. Rick opened the door. The color drained from his face as he saw me. His surprise quickly morphed into terror as I barged in, seizing him by the hair and pushing him into a chair. His eyes widened in horror, his body stiffened, and the scent of fear filled the room. In the face of confrontation, Rick's bravado crumbled, and he pissed himself in fear. How pathetic. The sight of him cowering like a rodent filled me with a cold satisfaction. I grabbed him by the back of the head one more time, and with a stern warning, I made my intentions clear. "Listen up, Rick. Disappear from our lives, quit the gym, and never message Claire ever again. Got it?" "Yes, sir," Rick muttered out through a shaky voice. I continued, "Because if you do, then Sarah is going to learn about this as well. Would you like that?" He then begged me not to bring her into this. He said he was sorry, that he had made a mistake, and that he would comply if I just let him go and never told Sarah. The fear in his eyes was palpable, and I could see him mentally making the promises I demanded. I gave him a few more slaps for good measure, and I walked out, leaving him trembling in his chair. Yeah, I know. He could press charges and all of that. But come on. This guy wasn't going to do anything. He knew he was being an idiot. Back in the lobby, I saw Claire, her face a mask of shock and terror. Apparently her and Sarah had been talking, and it didn't appear that the conversation was going well. I pointed towards the door. "Go home, Claire." She ran off, crying, the enormity of her actions finally dawning on her. Sarah's face was pale but composed. "How did it go?" she asked. I replied, "I believe I made my point." I wished her luck and turned and walked out the door. Back home, the confrontation continued. Claire tried to explain, to plead her case, but I wasn't interested in listening. Her actions had spoken louder than any words she could offer. I told her to get prepared to move out, and she reluctantly agreed, the remorse in her eyes doing nothing to soften my resolve. As the week passed, Claire and I coexisted in the same house, living parallel lives. She attempted to seduce me, to rekindle what was lost, but it was too late. She was no longer the woman I loved. She was a stranger, and I never gave her 1 inch of hope that I could ever see her the same way again. I suspect I will be hearing from Sarah soon, and if I do, I'll come back and let you know what transpired on her end. Here is his final post. "Thank you for following my journey so far. You've seen me walk through the storm and come out the other side. I appreciate your support. I've received a flood of private messages asking about Sarah and Claire, and it's time to set the story straight." A couple of weeks after the confrontation, I received a call from Sarah. I could hear the anxiety in her voice, mirroring my own feelings from that fateful Thursday evening. She told me about her encounter with Rick at the hotel. When he came down from the room, oblivious and expecting to just walk out the door, he was met with the cold gaze of his wife sitting in the breakfast area. The moment he saw her, he He dropped to his knees, pleading for forgiveness. I could almost picture the scene, similar to my confrontation with him, a mirror image of the fear and remorse in his eyes. Sarah, being the compassionate woman she is, decided to give him a chance. They are now attending marriage counseling, an attempt to salvage what's left of their relationship. I wished her the best, hoping that she finds the peace and happiness she deserves. As for whether they will stay together, only time will tell. Sarah is considering a divorce, but she wants to give herself time to process everything and make the right decision. I respect her for her strength and patience. Dealing with such a traumatic revelation takes a lot of courage and resilience. Turning to Claire, she has moved out, and we communicate strictly through our lawyers. I will not let her transgressions mar my peace anymore. My divorce will be finalized soon, and yes, I will have to pay some alimony, but I view it as the price for peace and my dignity. As for my future, I'm not certain about another marriage. For now, I just want to focus on my work and pursue my passions, some of which were overshadowed during my married life. I will continue going to the gym, attend concerts, and fulfill my dream of traveling to Europe. If there's one thing this entire experience has taught me, it's that life is unpredictable, and we must learn to adapt and find our strength in adversity. I am still standing, and I am grateful for the chance to move on and start anew. Thank you all for your support. Until my next update, take care. Tough guys are usually tough until they meet an actual tough guy. Rick is an idiot, and Claire even more so for falling for such a spineless twit. Her husband sounds like a guy who has it together pretty well. But you never know what kind of people these really are unless you know them in real life, I suppose. What are your thoughts? Let us know in the comments section below. When you subscribe, be sure to click the notification bell. Click here for more Tangled threads.